What's up, people? Welcome to week dos, which is French or Russian or Danish for two, I believe. Maybe not. Welcome to week two. I'm Mr. Byers. Two is the magic number because I've already recorded this lecture twice this week. But technical difficulties resulted in them dying, or at least just not recording, actually, even though I went through the whole recording. Okay, so this is my third time, magic number 3, to record the same thing. But because of that, I can confidently say that this week, week 2, there will be 2 lectures, part 1 and part 2. Okay, because I don't like recording longer than 30 minutes. I don't think people like to watch lectures longer than 30 minutes. So we're splitting this up into 2 lectures for week 2. Part 1, which I'm doing right now, is going to be about the textbook and about paper 1 and about some stuff dealing with the assignments that you're going to be doing for week 2. And then part 2 is skills, writing skills and grammar skills that you need to know in order to do well on the work that is required this week and also forever. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Let me share my face. Okay, here is our class, our online class platform. Hello, I can't think of the word. Something I want to show you that I've added on here is the textbook link. Click here.
Please pardon this interruption. It is now 2:25.
Hold on.
All students should be under the direct supervision of a teacher, coach, or...
Okay, sorry. We have this announcement at school, and so I just want to make sure that you didn't necessarily have to hear all that. All right, so this is our textbook link. Click on ebook. See, it says ebook. Now, I don't like using the online book, but you know, I am an ex-millennial. A lot of me is Gen X, and a lot of me is millennial, and so that part of me much more prefers the physical book. I don't like reading online. I don't use a Kindle. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. So if you have a physical book, good for you. If you have the online, here it is. Now, this is important because when we go to the English 1102 course schedule, this week, you will be reading out of the textbook, okay? First off, you have one of two PDFs that you need to pick. This is in the week 2 folder. You will pick either As a Woman by Paula Stone, which is posted as a PDF, or you read the Nanette Abridged by Hannah Gadsby PDF. Pick one of those and read it. Whichever one you don't pick, you'll read during week 3. All right, so you will end up reading both of these within 2 weeks from now. Pick one, though, for this assignment, for a week 2 assignment. Pick one of those. If you're between those two, they are located here in lessons. Week 2. And here you have As a Woman, chapter 2, and you have Nanette as prose abridged. Okay. Nanette, if you can read these 10 pages of her stand-up comedy piece, which is not really stand-up comedy, it's more like I don't know what you would call it. I don't know. Performance piece, okay? Film. I don't know why I do that. If you go to Netflix, you can watch her performance of the Nanette piece, okay? She is a comedian, and most of her stuff is comedic, but this piece is a much more social analysis. It's much more serious. Okay. So if you type in Nanette here, now she doesn't say this in the piece, okay, but I want to tell you this personally. Nanette is a French translation of the Hebrew version. I'm not making this up. Hebrew version of Hannah. So Nanette means Hannah. Okay. This piece is actually about her. Okay. It is all about her. And she jokes at the beginning of it that like she decided to randomly name it Nanette before she ever actually is actually going to before she even wrote it. But that's a lie. She's just joking. Okay. So there is that you can watch it or you can listen to it. So you can either watch that / read it this week or next week, whichever one you want. Okay. And then there's a chapter called from a book called As a Woman by Paula Stone. Paula Stone is a trans woman who writes a book about her time before her transition as Paul. And so chapter 2 is about her childhood as Paul, with though Paul realizing that he was a trans person. Okay, so pick one of those for this week and either read it or watch it. Okay, so then you go back up to the course schedule. And then you're also going to pick one of these 4 stories to read from the textbook. Okay, I provided with you a page number and a chapter. If you go to the ebook, you can ideally, theoretically, you can type in the page number here where it says, where it has a little box 453, and it sends you sometimes to the story, sometimes not. Okay. For me, it sends me at the bottom of the story, and I have to scroll all the way to the top to then, like, A Rose for Emily. That's not the story. The story is The Love of My Life. So I keep scrolling up. And then I get to The Love of My Life. It's on page 453 as it says here, but it's way up high. Now you could also, since I said it's in chapter 10, you could go to chapter 10, click on it, and then go down to The Love of My Life and click on that. And then when you do that, it might take you to the top of the story. Oh yeah, there it takes you to the story right there. Okay. Maybe you want to read Cat Person, which is on chapter 10. So again, you're there. You could scroll down till you find Cat Person. And it should take you right there. Okay. Now, let me give you a little warning about Cat Person. Cat Person is written by a professor of English, okay, from Harvard, okay, but it talks about a college girl who tests the waters of a relationship with a fella that she meets at a movie theater, okay, and there's a very graphic sex scene in the short story. Okay, so if you're cool with that, feel free to read Cat Person. Okay, if you are a little you feel a little weird about reading that kind of stuff, then maybe don't read it. All right, that's up to you. All right, I just wanted to let you know. All right, about Cat Person. Okay, so there's The Rich Brother, there's Cat Person, Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been? Any of this 4 you can read. Okay, you are on your own. There you go. Let's see here. All right, so that is the textbook. This is what we're doing this week. We're going to talk about some existentialism. You're going to read about this piece called the Waiter. You are going to we're in part 2. We're going to look at parts of a paragraph, integrating quotes, grammar, and punctuating titles. Okay. All right, great. All right, so I'm gonna be using a PowerPoint for this first part. And that PowerPoint for part 1 and part 2 is located here in the 2025 week 2 PDF. If you click on this will open up the notes to what I'm going over today, and also in the part 2 lecture as well. Okay, and then you will find the 2 assignments that are required to be done for this week. Okay, let's see. Let's get started. There we go. Okay, part 1, human all too human. The road to self begins in the source. Okay, so we're already going to get into essay 1. All right. And this first unit is called Understanding Ourselves. And the pieces that we are reading for this unit deal with people trying to figure out themselves. They are testing out the waters. They're trying to, they tend to be younger and unsure of themselves. They're not sure what kind of like person or life they're going to live, and so they are trying to figure things out. And this is also an ongoing lifelong thing. I mean, I know for a fact I've changed from when I was in my late teens to my 20s to my 30s, and now in my 40s. I changed in the middle of my 20s when we had kids. I definitely changed, throughout these major milestones throughout my life. So I change when I get new people in my life, or I get people. I understand new other people's experiences. So change is a constant part of people's existence. Okay, it's you change in your marriage. The person that you're married to changes. I mean, it's just constant, and it's important to look at this. Practicing self-awareness. Okay, practicing self-awareness is about learning to better understand why you feel what you feel and why you behave in a particular way. Having this awareness gives you the opportunity and freedom to change things about yourself, enabling you to create a life that you want. Literature, lit in the form of stories, poetry, drama, film, music, nonfiction, and novels, are all mediums that can help us understand ourselves and what we want out of life. Reading about other people's experiences can help us understand other people better, and finding ways to relate to a diverse set of characters and situations can teach us not only about others, but also new ways of seeing ourselves. Okay. Reading stories, whether they are fiction or nonfiction, watching films about stories about people, help us to develop empathy for people, to try to understand where they're coming from, and also to understand deeper parts of ourselves as well. So in this class, we'll be talking a lot about philosophy. We'll be doing a short story analysis and applying it to philosophy. We're going to be looking at a film, doing some film analysis and applying philosophy. And we'll be doing our semester-long novel / adaptation paper and how it relates back to philosophy as well, because philosophy helps us to continue to grow. And so philosophy is an activity people undertake when they seek to understand fundamental truths about themselves, the world in which they live, and their relationships to the world and to each other. Essay 1. So your first essay is going to be connecting philosophy to a short story. Okay. You will write a paper about a school of philosophy and how it relates to one of the stories we read in Unit 1 and how it relates to you on a personal level. So this class is writing about literature. The literature is not the important part of the class. the ability to discuss what you read and analyze it and pull in quotes and do that all in a well-organized essay, that is what's applicable to all of your classes, okay? So, for these essays, you replace the literature with whatever topic you're studying, whether it's a history class or psychology, sociology, engineering, whatever. And you're doing the same type of activity, okay? You are reading, learning about something, teaching yourself, and then writing about it in an essay, okay? And so the literature part of this class is less important, all right? Okay. So for essay one, these are some types of philosophies that you can research and get to kind of like know. None of this really sums up anything about the philosophies. All right, you will research a philosophy on your own and apply it to a story that we read. Okay. Existentialism is essentially about like how do you make sense of the world in which we live in. Stoicism is this idea of understanding what you can control and what you can't control, and trying to look at things non-emotionally and to rationalize through situations. Hedonism often gets a bad rap because people think that hedonists are just people who do drugs, drink all the time, and have a bunch of sex. And that's like not it at all. Hedonism is about saying that like finding the perfect balance in your life that creates the most positive and pleasurable outcomes. And so, people who indulge in alcohol all the time, where they're always hungover and they are puking and they are suffering from liver failure. A true hedonist would not say, "Oh, that's a good thing," okay? Because ultimately, that behavior leads to a lot of unhappiness. Same thing with like people who are extremely, philanderers, people who are just sleeping around all the time. Ultimately, that does not lead to pure happiness. That kind of leads to emptiness. And so hedonism looks at how do you maximize by creating maximize the happiness in your life by creating a very balanced and sustaining life. Marxism, people misinterpret Marxism and associate Marxist philosophy with Marxist economic theory and political theory and communism, and that's not really the case. A Marxist philosophy is one that questions greed, it questions materialism, it questions how the value that we put into possessions rather than the people who make those things. So like currently right now, a great Marxist show would be Severance on Apple TV. That show has a very anti-corporate, pro-humanity theme, and that's what Marxism, in terms of philosophy, pushes and looks at. Taoism is about again finding balance and simplicity, and as it says, naturalness. It's very nature related. It's about finding calm and because life itself is all suffering. So how do you push through the suffering in order to release all these stressors? And then relativism. Relativism focuses a lot on the individual and how we have to there are no absolute truths or moral facts. So how do we rationalize through that? But then also how do we not make these brash judgments because we don't ultimately know anything. Okay, so these are little just snippets of different philosophies that you would, if any of these seem interesting to you, you will take and then you will explore later for in your paper. Just to give you more, information. So here we have two examples of two different existentialists. We have Soren Kierkegaard, who is a Christian existentialist, and then we have Jean-Paul Sartre, who is a atheist existentialist. All right, and they're technically both under the umbrella of existentialism, even though they're very different. Kierkegaard, his whole thing is that like God's in heaven, I'm on earth. Okay, how God gave me absolute freedom. So how do I handle that freedom? How do I, how do I really know that what I'm doing is going to be pleasing God? And so I'm filled with anxiety and dread, not knowing for sure if God is happy with me. So trying to figure out what I do on this earth with this life that he's given me. Sartre is like, there is no God. The existence of life lacks any meaning and purpose. We are here by chance. There is no divine purpose for humans being here. We just happen to land. Our Earth happened to be at the perfect place from the sun where it can create a diversity of life, and we are just the result of evolution. Okay, and so there is no deeper purpose, but we are creatures of meaning, and so it is our responsibility to find meaning and purpose in our life. So since the existence of life lacks any absolute meaning and purpose, you got to make it your own. So he believed in being with a lowercase b and being with a capital B. Lowercase being is just merely going through the motions of life, eating, sleeping, working, and living passively, just being, just, doing the bare minimum, okay, without much effort. Capital B being is choosing how you will live, choosing how your life will go, actively living your life. All right. And so a lot of his work is challenging people on whether or not they are being purposeful or just not. Okay, so like these spoke to me. If I these to both of these are important. And so if I was writing a paper and I'm reading some stories, I might be thinking about like essentially like are these if I'm doing like a Sartre interpretation, is the main character seizing the day, carpe diem, okay, or are they just being passive? Are they just going through and just being flowing down the river of life without trying much? And does that make them happy or not? Okay, so you're gonna do some research on a philosophy when we get to essay 1, and then you're gonna be applying that to your short stories. Okay, so like I posted a document called Sartre's Waiter. I want you to read it. It's in the week 2 folder. You're gonna use this document along with one of these two pieces. You're gonna read either As a Woman or Nanette. And then you're also going to read, as I've already said, one of these 4 short stories from the book. And then all this is for assignment 4. You cannot do assignment 4 if you don't read Sartre's Waiter, read one of these, and then read one of these. Okay? Because this is assignment 4. It says, in a minimum 300-word response, apply the concepts of Sartre's Waiter philosophy of radical freedom to either Paula or Hannah, depending on which one you read. Be sure to discuss the social obstacles that impacted their ability to express themselves openly. And then in a minimum 300-word response, use one of your sources from assignment 3 from week 1 to relate it to the experiences of the main character of the story you read. If none of your sources from assignment 3 can be related to what you read, then find an article online that relates to how the main character tries to figure out life. Include the citation of the article at the bottom of your document. So both of these are requiring you to have read Sartre's Waiter, one of these stories from A, and one of these stories from B. Okay. And in your response, you will have to correctly write the titles of the stories, you're gonna have to compare them to an article or to Sart's Waiter. You're gonna need to use quotes from the pieces and write a very well organized paragraph for each response for A and B. So the end of this is going to be a 600 word. That's probably going to be 2 pages, almost 2 pages, definitely 2 pages, and double spaced MLA formatted document with your responses. Okay. So part 2 of this lecture is going to be going over how you do all of this. Okay. Part 2 is going to be going over college level paragraphs. I'm going to go over how your paragraph should be divided up. I'm going to go over MLA formatting. I'm going to go over writing titles and using quotation marks and how to insert quotes, how to punctuate quotes, how to break down quotes, all right, how to cite your sources. Everything I go over in part 2 is meant for you to help you understand how you need to be completing this assignment. And all this stuff that I'm going over also is what you're going to be graded on in all of your papers. Part 2 is a lot of information and it's a lot of front loading. And these are all the things that you're going to be practicing throughout all of your essays. Okay. So part 2 is super important because that's where I go over all this stuff. So that way, when you turn in this assignment, you can apply all the things that I discussed in part 2 to your responses and to your document. And then I'm going to look it over and make sure that you're doing things correctly. And I'm going to take 5 points off for every error that I find. All right. And so your goal is to make no errors. So that way, when it gets time to write your papers, you know exactly what you're doing. Okay. Good times. This is the end of part 1. You should move on to part 2. Give it a watch. Follow all the directions here. Do everything I say to do in completing of assignment 4. Okay. And then after all that, you can complete assignment 5 once you have figured out the novel that you're going to read. If you have no idea what I'm talking about in terms of a semester novel, if you look at the assignment 5 independent reading form and you have no idea what I'm talking about, that means that you did not watch the week 1 lecture or listen to it fully, and you did not read this novel adaptations document that you need to make sure that you look at from week 1. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope this made sense. All right. See y'all later.